There was no woman more beautiful in Greece than Princess Helen. Many kings dreamed of having her as their wife. Among them, invincible Achilles, cunning Ulysses, and fearsome Menelaus. "It's best if we let Helen decide for herself," suggested Ulysses. "However, let's make a vow that, regardless of whom she choose, we will always run to her rescue, if needs be." Helen chose Menelaus. He was the king of Sparta and his warriors were known for their bravery. However, life in Sparta was one of simplicity. Dances evoked images of war and men dedicated most of their time to fighting, not their wives. Helen wasn't happy. Until, one day, a prince came to the palace. His name was Paris, and he was the son of the king of Troy. Menelaus welcomed him and offered him hospitality. For Paris and Helen, it was love at first sight. One night, when Menelaus was away, the prince visited Helen in her room where they confessed their love to each other. "Menelaus frightens me. Let's leave this palace," Helen said. They took a ship and sailed for Troy. King Priam received them along with his daughter Cassandra and Hector, his eldest son. Paris gave obeisance to the king. "Father, I greet you and beg you to protect Helen and save us both from Menelaus' wrath. If this woman stays here, she will be our downfall," predicted Cassandra, but no one paid any attention to her words. Beautiful Cassandra had an uncanny power. Years ago, Apollo had fallen in love with her, but she had rejected him. Then the god cursed her to foresee misfortunes, but no one should ever believe her. For this reason, Priam gave no credence to her prophecy. "Welcome, son. The strength of our city will protect you both." They had no idea that danger was lurking thousands of miles away. Menelaus, beside himself with anger, reminded the rest of the Greek kings of the solemn vow they had made. Helen was abducted. "We must go and save her," he thundered. A few weeks later, the Trojans beheld a breathtaking sight, hundreds of ships dropping anchor and thousands of warriors disembarking along the coast of Troy. A man started walking towards them and requested an audience with them. "Trojans, I'm Menelaus, the king of Sparta," he spoke loudly. "One of you insulted my hospitality and stole my wife. Give her back and we will leave in peace. If you don't, your city will turn into rubble and ash." From the top of the city walls, Priam gave his answer: "Helen came here on her own free will and she can leave whenever it pleases her. Troy is not afraid. My son, Hector, commander of our army, is more brave than the lot of you." Helen hugged Paris. "I'd rather die with you than return to Menelaus' arms," she said. And thus the Trojan War began and lasted 10 years. In the beginning, every attack attempted by the Greeks failed. They could neither climb the massive walls nor destroy them. Their horses and chariots were of no use and no one won in hand-to-hand combat. Agamemnon, Menelaus' brother and commander of the Greek army, decided that it was time for a new strategy. So he said to his comrades, "We will lay siege to Troy. Arm yourselves with patience. As soon as the Trojans run out of food, they will come out or surrender." However, the Trojans had an adequate food supply. At the same time, they weren't idle. At night, they used to split into small groups, and by moving stealthily through secret passages, ambushed the Greeks. They killed the sleeping soldiers, stole their supplies, burned their tents and their ships. The Greeks, on the other hand, managed to win a few battles and take valuable spoils such as weapons, food, and prisoners, which they distributed among their best warriors. In one of those battles, they captured 2 young women as war trophies, Chryseis and Briseis. Agamemnon kept Chryseis for himself, and gave Briseis to Achilles, to thank him for his help. One day, though, Agamemnon changed his mind and asked Achilles to give the prisoner back. He refused, but the king took her by force. Achilles was seized by sadness and rage, dug his heels in and decided that he would stay in his tent. Unfortunately, without Achilles, the Greeks started losing one battle after another. Patroclus, Achilles' best friend, pleaded with him to return to the battlefield, but Achilles wouldn't hear of it. Patroclus asked him then to let him wear his armor and take his place. When the Trojans saw him, they started withdrawing because they took him for Achilles. The only Trojan who didn't hesitate at all and struck at him was Hector, and, after a ferocious battle, Patroclus lost his life. Achilles swore that he would avenge his dear friend's death. The next day, the Trojans saw a chariot stopping at the gates of their city. The chariot was driven by a sword-wielding and shield-bearing man. "Trojans, I am Achilles and I challenge Hector to a duel." Hector, who was anything but a coward, put on his armor. Cassandra tried to stop him. "Last night I dreamt that a dead warrior was lying in front of the gates of Troy. Only it wasn't Achilles. Remember that he is invincible." "Sister, I have never been defeated either," replied Hector and donned his helmet. Then he picked up his weapons and left. The Greeks gathered and watched from afar, while the Trojans observed from the crenellation with bated breath. The gates creaked. Hector made his appearance and started moving towards Achilles. The Greek warrior charged at him, but Hector dodged his blow deftly. Achilles kept charging furiously at him, but Hector always managed to escape. He wore him out and then attacked him. He had started gaining the upper hand in their single combat. Helen turned to Paris. "Your brother will win," she said. What she didn't know was that Achilles had a secret. When he was a baby, his mother, Thetis, had brought him to the river Styx, which formed the boundary between the land of the dead and the land of the living. She had dipped him into the freezing waters, holding him by his heel. Since that day, Achilles became invulnerable and no weapon could harm his body. The single combat between Achilles and Hector went on for hours. The only sounds were the clash of their weapons and the groaning of the 2 men. Hector dodged every single blow attempted by Achilles, but when he tried to hit the Greek, he had the sense that his sword struck a rock. Moreover, he was tired and had trouble fighting off his enemy. All of a sudden Achilles' sword pierced his collarbone and Hector dropped dead on the ground. In the aftermath of Hector's death, the fighting became even more ferocious. At one point, Apollo advised Paris to use a poisoned arrow and aim at Achilles' heel, the only vulnerable part of his body. When Paris saw his chance, drew his bow and released the arrow, exactly as the god had suggested, killing Achilles. After a fruitless 10-year siege, Troy still could not be conquered. The Greeks found themselves at an impasse with no idea as to what their next step should be. Yet again, it was cunning Ulysses who had the solution: "We will construct a huge wooden horse and hide our best warriors inside. The rest of you will get on the ships and wait at the nearest island." When the day dawned, the Trojans could not believe their eyes. The Greeks had disappeared and the only thing that was left behind was a strange wooden horse on 4 wheels in front of their city gates. They thought the war was over and that the horse was a gift from the gods. Cassandra tried to warn them, "This horse will bring death." But no one heard her words. And the horse was pulled into the city. To celebrate, the Trojans organized a huge feast. They all sang, danced, and made merry. When night fell and the feast was over, a trap door opened under the belly of the horse, a rope was uncoiled and a figure crept out. It was Menelaus, followed by Ulysses and the rest of the warriors who were hidden inside the Trojan horse. Under the moonlight, they managed to reach the city gates and open them wide. The Greek army, who had remained in hiding during the day, flowed into the city like a wild river. Unbeknownst to them, the Trojans were led from celebration to death. Helen had lost Paris and feared for her life. Nevertheless, Menelaus forgave her and they returned to Sparta together. The only thing that remained from the once proud city of Troy was the red smoke billowing out of the ruins.